Hi there, Simon from simonwoods.com here. Got 5 Sauvignons. I've got to taste them quite quickly because it's the first England game this afternoon, and England are going to beat the Yanks about 8-0, and Emil Heskey's going to get a hat-trick. I'm going to a barbecue afterwards, and so I thought I'd take some Sauvignon Blancs along. I've got 5 to taste, 3 different countries. I think they're all 09 vintage. First one is a very well-known wine, Montana Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. I think this is probably about the 30th vintage of it. I think it started about 79 or 80. And stick my nose in, and maybe it's a slightly more grown-up style than it used to be. It certainly feels leaner, finer. Maybe it's to do with the vintage. There's certainly none of that stewed gooseberry edge that some of the wines, some of the Marlborough Sauvignons can have. And I know 09 was a great vintage for them, but this one feels like it's going to be lean and keen. Let's see whether it fulfills my expectations. Yeah, it's a nice, clean, juicy, grassy style. Not too pungent. Feels drier than some Marlborough Sauvignons. I think some of them are propped up by residual sweetness, which for me is the big no-no. But here, yeah, you've got this grassy, a bit of lemongrass coming through, and this slight minerally tension as well. It tastes really good. Yeah. I like that a lot, and the finish has got this stony, pebbly quality. Okay, let's hop over to South Africa, and where they are having the World Cup, obviously, and I think this one's on special offer for some of the weeks of the World Cup. De Grendel, 2009 Sauvignon Blanc, and I think the vineyards here are pretty close to the ocean, so yes, South Africa's a warm place, but if you're close enough to the sea, then you get that maritime influence, cooling the nights, making sure that the temperatures don't go too high. And this smells maybe a bit more lemony. It feels like it's going to have maybe not the pungent concentration that you were getting in the Montana. Maybe a bit more subtle. Yeah, certainly not as forward. Not that the Montana was sort of whoa, but the De Grendel feels like, yes, it's got a bit of uncurling to do. Touch of herb, but yes, it's this citrusy, yeah, mineral citrus edge that's the main event. Yeah, touch of green pepper. It's funny, and I get an ever so slight note of smokiness, which I find in balance with the wine. Sometimes, certainly the reds are from South Africa in particular, take that smokiness just that bit too far, but I get a touch of it there. Funny, I prefer the way that smells to the way it tastes. It feels almost just too green peppery, as if a touch more ripeness would have been welcome, but then you'd have lost that crisp pungency. Hey, no one said winemaking was going to be easy. So the Montana just about pips it at the post there. Now I've got 3 from Chile. First one, Castillo de Molina, from the Elqui Valley, and Castillo de Molina is San Pedro's one of their labels. Elqui is one of those valleys. I think it's one of the furthest north of the valleys where they grow grapes. But because it's quite close to the sea, you get all this cool air being sucked in. And at the western end of the Elqui Valley, it's cool. Move eastward from your camera angle, then it gets warmer and warmer. And it's weird, one of those things. Higher up you go, the warmer it gets. Things I get here. Slightly preserved lemons. There's a ever so slight jelly-like character here, which isn't great for me. It feels a bit too clean and commercial, almost as if someone's polished it a bit too much and lost a bit of the soul in the process. There is a nice, almost nettly, grassy character to it, but it's this slightly crude lemon jelly edge that I find just too intrusive there. Yeah, not so sure. Let's go further south, Maule, and for Palo Alto Sauvignon Blanc Reserva, of course. Yeah, I think Palo Alto, that was a label from San Pedro. This one's from Conchitoro. I think it's a winery that they bought about 8 years ago, but I think basically they just bought the brand rather than any of the vineyards. They might have done, hey, Now this feels more like white Bordeaux. It's got a slightly nutty edge, and I don't know whether that's a bit of sulphur coming through, whether it's a bit of mineral. Sometimes in Malais, I don't know whether this is the case here, but some of the things that are labelled Sauvignon Blanc are another grape called Sauvignonasse, which is the Sauvignon Vert from Bordeaux, if you know the Sauvignon family. And it's not quite. It's one of those grapes that has Sauvignon-like characters, Sauvignon Blanc-like characters, but tails off the older it gets. It doesn't quite have the staying power of Sauvignon Blanc. And it may be that, that it's the character of the soil that I'm coming through, the character of the region, but certainly this reminds me a bit of the wines that I associate with Sauvignonasse. And it's a gentle, rounded, quite simple wine. It's funny, compared with the Castillo de Molina. The Castillo de Molina is probably a bit more concentrated, it has a bit more length, but I actually prefer, that's the one I'd want to drink. It's not as angular and doesn't feel quite as confected. Okay, final wine, and we're between those two regions now in Casablanca. Casas del Bosque Reserva Sauvignon. These are all 09 vintages, if I didn't say. And I think they're all about the same price, sort of. I think the De Grendel's on 10 quid, reduced to 6 quid, but the rest are all sort of 7.99. More gentle, fragrant. Yeah, there's a slight note of herbs. Again, that citrus fruit. Very ripe lemon. Doesn't smell like it's going to be incredibly concentrated. But what it does have is a nice herby, crisp length. It's one of the less obvious of the wines here, and it's got that ever so slightly hint of pebbly, minerally character that I was getting in the De Grendel. Yes, and length as well. It's not out and out pungent, but it's one of those wines that I think that's one that for me that's the one that's going to pass the empty bottle test. No hard angular features. Sauvignon can be a bit shouty, shrieky. This one hasn't got any of that. It's just got confidence and persistence, and tastes good. Yeah, I think that's my favourite. That and the Montana, I think, do a terrific job between them. This one more on the subtle, maybe European style, and the Montana on the subtle edge of New Zealand, but still very much a Kiwi wine. Okay, hope you enjoyed those. See you soon. I'm going off to watch England thrash the Yanks now. Bye.